We're getting some more details about the penalty assessed to Joey Logano for his glove. This is coming from NASCAR's senior vice president of competition, Elton Sawyer. He spoke with SiriusXM NASCAR Radio about it and about whether they might assess additional penalties to Joey Logano and the number 22 Penske Ford team. Before we get into this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at John Trent Racing. So, just to get you up to speed, this is the penalty that NASCAR announced on Sunday. It says the number 22 car will drop to the rear and serve a pass-through penalty at the start of today's race due to violating Rule 14.3.1.1 of the NASCAR rulebook. Gloves do not meet SFI specification. We would then get, during the broadcast on Fox, they would kind of explain this. And you can see Logano's glove right there has some kind of webbing in between the thumb and the pointer finger, I believe. And he was using that to, I guess, try and increase his speed by directing the air away from the car with the webbing. It's really unclear exactly how much of an advantage that actually gave him. He did not qualify on the pole. He did qualify on the front row, though. He was second behind Michael McDowell. So I still don't have I don't think we've really got an explanation as to how much of an advantage that was giving him, but nevertheless, NASCAR penalized him for the illegal glove that did not meet this nonprofit organization called SFI that certifies the safety of the equipment. So they penalized him for that, sent him to the rear of the field, and then also were going to basically make him do a drive-through. He got really lucky because there was a wreck basically on lap 2. So he was serving his drive-through penalty. He didn't really actually go any laps down. He just had to go back to the rear of the field for the most part. So he didn't actually have to bear the brunt of that full penalty, given the fact that if they had stayed green, it's likely he was going to go 2 laps down and really kind of put him behind the 8 ball for the rest of the race. So let's listen to what Elton Sawyer had to say. He appeared on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio Channel 90, where he discussed that penalty to Logano and whether or not there will be additional penalties. This is what he had to say here. Let's take a listen.
If you just take exactly what happened at the racetrack from a competition perspective and trying to enhance the performance on the racetrack, obviously we see time and time again at super speedways and other events where the drivers will stick their hand out the window. That's not something that we've been all that alarmed about. When you take it to the level that you have modified one of the safety, some of the safety equipment, gloves in particular, and then using that, so the penalty at the racetrack was based off that. So we disallowed the qualifying time, put the 22 to the back, and then also had them perform a pass-through penalty under green. Now, the next step of that is when you look at safety equipment, and we look at this very hard, we look at this, take it very seriously. There's been numerous meetings over time about safety of the car and the equipment and the drivers. And when you take and alter that, that will be something that we will discuss today if it needs to have additional penalty added to that. But the reason I want to be really clear on that is that what happened at the racetrack and the way it was handled was strictly based on performance and using that device. Now, altering a SFI certified safety piece of apparel, that's a different topic that we'll discuss today.
So that is really interesting because I think back on Sunday, a lot of the reporting, even from Larry McReynolds, was talking about he was actually being penalized for the safety equipment, the gloves failing to meet the SFI inspection. It had nothing to do with him gaining any kind of competitive advantage. And the idea was that he would be potentially being assessed additional penalties this week because of that competitive advantage. So Elton Sawyer here is saying the opposite. He's actually saying that Logano was penalized for potentially gaining some kind of competitive advantage by adding a webbing to that glove and gaining a competitive advantage. And that is what he was being assessed for rather than any kind of safety violation. Because again, if you're looking at this, I don't know how adding in like that webbing would somehow make those gloves fail a safety inspection. You would think that there probably are SFI approved gloves and they just added that little webbing. I wouldn't think that would somehow make the gloves unsafe anymore. That just seems utterly absurd. So it is good to kind of get that clarification. I still think NASCAR needs to be abundantly transparent about this. How much of an advantage did that webbing in that glove actually give Logano? Clearly, it didn't give him enough to get the pole. Michael McDowell did achieve that pole, but how much of an advantage was he actually gaining for that? And then I also think they need to be more clear as to maybe why they're handing out this penalty. They're like, it doesn't matter how much you might be trying to gain an advantage. If you are trying to gain that advantage, we're going to be very heavy-handed on that. So I just think NASCAR needs to do a better job of being more transparent as to why they're handing out these penalties and doing a better job of explaining that. And I think that would go a long ways as to like letting fans understand exactly what their logic and reasoning is. And I just don't think they've done a very good job of doing that. Again, like I said, they clearly were communicating to Fox to explain that why that penalty was happening. And Larry McReynolds was saying it was because of the safety problems with the glove. And if you go back to the original post here from NASCAR, it says that the gloves do not meet SFI specification. It has nothing to do with a competitive advantage. NASCAR was communicating that he failed an SFI specification, not that he was being penalized for trying to gain a competitive advantage by altering the gloves. Well, he's telling us that it was because of the competitive advantage. It had nothing to do with that safety standard. So again, there needs to be better communication, I think, from NASCAR to the media outlets as well as to their fans as to why drivers and teams are being penalized. But those are my thoughts on the matter. Let me know what you guys make of this in the comments below.